My nuts are disgusting.
That's the cold open.
The hot open.
There's a snake in my boot.
Console Crusade podcast. It's been a minute. The Nintendo Direct happened, 14 weeks ago at this point?
Roughly, yes.
Yeah, so we're finally getting to it. I'm EJ Olson with Nick Durheim.
Salutations.
And Chris Gilly for
Metroid Prime 4 lives.
Yeah, we're gonna break it down. We're gonna jump into it. It was a good ass direct, dude. It was finally a direct that had something for everybody, including for all of us who were so fantasy critic pilled that we almost don't even care about the games anymore.
What I think helped a lot is that this is year 7 of the Switch, and we're all like, we know the Switch 2 is coming out next year, and they're not going to talk about next year, really. They're going to talk about stuff that's coming out this year and maybe some other stuff. So our expectations were measured. They were at the floor. Personally, I had 0 expectations besides ports and remasters.
So you're saying that if we hadn't been told that there would be no Switch news, that we probably would have been really angry at this direct?
Yeah.
You're probably right. You're probably
if
right.
if they never said we're not gonna talk about Switch 2. If they just said they just had their normal disclaimer of like, here's things that you can look forward to this next year. We're focusing on things that are coming out this year. Then we're all just like clenching our butt cheeks, waiting for like a CG reveal of like a screen rotating with like a gradient black background. You know, like a product reveal, like a normal ass, video from like Apple or whatever. Like Nintendo would do that, but they didn't, and they did the smart thing of communicating that with us. They said, "Hey, we're not doing that. Please look forward to. Please be excited for things that are coming out this year, primarily," and that's what they delivered.
And they were hitting on all cylinders.
New shit too.
I know, and we're gonna go through it. Like Nick, I think what the over under, I was like 65% of this is gonna be stuff that's league ineligible. So like ports, remakes, remasters, director's cuts, like crap like that. Thought for sure that was gonna be the bulk of it. And right from jump, they said, "Fuck your predictions, fuck your pessimism. Here's a bunch of really, really good shit." Like literally for everybody that just like cements this thing's status as a miracle machine. We'll get into it.
Totally. And we still got a lot of ports and remakes, but they were the ones that were there also were the low tier ones, but there were high tier ones. We'll talk about that as well. But I just want to start us off with like the first thing they showed. This was the thing that was like, I'm driving to work. I have my phone, like I'm not looking at my phone. I have my phone playing through the speakers of my car, and I hear Mario sounds, and I glance down. I'm like, that art style looks very familiar. Is this a remake? And hell no, we're getting a new Mario and Luigi game. Double surprise, triple surprise. It's a new game, like from a well-known franchise with Mario, and it's an RPG, which is like a three-peat. For the past 12 months, we've just gotten banger after banger after banger. And Mario and Luigi, the studio that made these games, is dead. So it was just like complete blindside. And they're starting with this. If this was like a closer, that would be pretty hype. But they're opening with this. So it's like, well, what the fuck you got in store there, Nintendo? What's happening today?
We're eating so good, dude. All 3 of the major Mario RPG franchises represented on the Switch within effectively 1 calendar year. That's fucking crazy. That is fucking crazy. Like last year and last summer when they announced the Mario RPG remake, I was like, never in a million years did I think this was going to happen. 6 months later, we get confirmation they're doing a 1,000-Year Door remake. 6 months later, they're like, we're giving you a new Mario and Luigi RPG. They are finally doing the thing that we wish that they'd have done forever and listen to us and give us Mario RPGs that are actually fucking RPGs again. Like, what Twilight world are we living in that Nintendo is actually giving us this game in 2024?
EJ, did you ever play Superstar on Game Boy Advance? I feel like you might have.
Oh, of course.
Just a delightful game. Just very charming and quirky, and cements. The best thing about Mario and Luigi is that it's about Mario and Luigi and like the way that they are as brothers and like cooperating with each other. And, it just cements them as these cartoon characters. Like, it's like literally Mickey Mouse and Pluto. or Mickey Mouse and Goofy. You know, like it's these two cartoon characters that are just like, they don't really have a personality. They just sort of do things. Luigi's a coward. Goofy's a coward. I mean, they literally are just like big white gloves cartoon characters, and they exemplify it the most in the RPG series. And I think Mario and Luigi even more so.
Is it concerning that the original studio is not attached to this? Like, who's doing this?
Well, Nintendo never wants to tell
Yeah.
who's developing these games. I mean, they did the same thing with Mario RPG Remake, and that's just like, it was just some like port house third party sort of studio, but they have like their internal team working on as like producers. So they're kind of helming the ship, but it's just like some gun for hire making the game. So for this one, that could very well be the same thing. It could be even the same studio that was working on 7 Stars. Like, it could be anyone. It could be Chris and I had talked about this, but like just the animation style and like the amount of care and attention that goes into it, and the way it translates too. Mario and Luigi was always a handheld like series, and the way that they would emote, it was very reminiscent of like Super Nintendo, where characters are like, their sprites are just like moving vertically up and down rapidly across the entire screen. It's hugely exaggerated because the games belong on a tiny screen. And this is the first time that this series is on a console, and it still looks like they're taking that animation priority and like having these characters emote at each other. They're just like throwing their arms out. It's crazy. It's over the top, and it's copying their art style brilliantly from like the cover art, and like that aesthetic is really what ties the series together. And I'm so glad that they're like keeping that true. They have these thick, bold outlines. These characters are emoting. They're doing these ridiculous things, like the animations of them in the combat where Mario's like hitting Luigi with a hammer, and Luigi's doing 1,700 backflips and like smashing the hell out of some crazy spark plug boss. Just gets me hyped, gets me excited. It looks good.
The question the people want to know: are we getting new gibberish Italian phrases?
Papa spaghetti.
Let's go to the bottom.
Buca di beppo. Linguini.
Those are some hungry
so.
Italian boys, I gotta tell you.
Pesto alla
Dude, they don't
Gracie.
get that thick from nothing.
There was some fantasy critic shenanigans this week because of this direct. And I can't remember if we touched on the week prior to the direct and all the money that got spent by myself and Brandon, but this direct gets announced after all those bids resolved, and we're thinking, of course, Nintendo is going to do something, but it's just going to be ports and remakes and some free-to-play crap, and it's going to suck. And they start with Mario and Luigi, like you said, and we're like, uh-oh. Uh-oh. I'm in
You're
danger.
Like, I'm excited, but I'm in danger.
Oh, shit. I'm sitting on $4, and I'm like, oh, no. We're about to get some bangers. So they go from this. We get what? We get a Donkey Kong port,
Which
that's good.
I'm here for it. I never did play that because they never moved it off the Wii in the same way that, you know, the whole Wii U catalog gets ported to the Switch.
Actually, it did get ported to the 3DS, Christopher.
Oh,
That's
yes.
true.
Console Crusade's favorite fucking console ever made.
The better console than the Wii.
Maybe not.
I don't remember
for
where we ranked it,
playing
but
that
probably not.
game. I'd rather do a sideways Wiimote for that game because it's just run and jump. But I'm going to buy this, 100% going to buy this so that I can play it, so that I can put it on the shelf. More good games. Obviously, no fantasy critic implications because it's a port. But it's cool that they're doing this. Maybe a sign that we're going to get a little more Kong to come.
I don't think we're getting any new Kong on the Switch, though. We've got a port of Tropical Freeze multiple years ago, and now a port of its predecessor this many years past. Like in 2025, we're getting a Donkey Kong Country port from the Wii that is over 15 years old at that point. No, because Returns was after Prime 3, which was 2007. Oh, time is rough. Yeah, so it might have been like 2010, might have been 15 years ago. Woo! Donkey Kong, dude.
What else do we get before? What were some of the smaller things that?
Well, like Dragon Quest 3, the HD 2D remake of that. I know Brandon is excited about. I think that this game looks pretty ugly. And I think it looks worse than the first time they showed it. And I do not think it is the most pristine example of what they've done with that art style of the HD 2D variety. It does not look as good as Octopath Traveler 2 or Live Alive, or Triangle Strategy. I think it looks kind of rough. So hopefully they like cleaned it up in other ways. Like they made it not feel like maybe a Super Nintendo RPG from 25 years ago, 35 years ago, 35 years ago. Hopefully they improved it and, shaved off some of those rough edges.
Did Brandon ever share his thoughts on that in the
No, I think he was just mostly a glow of excitement because it got that, and he got like Saga 2 got a big remaster kind of treatment. They're still making sagas, man. I guess they make enough money to justify their existence, but it seems strange.
You're going to buy it, right?
Saga? No.
No, Nick has self-respect.
No, let's not get it twisted, okay? I never said that. I have a lot of things on my wall, but none of them are self-respect. EJ, how about you tell us what you felt when you heard the announcer just like offhandedly quip about them taking you for a ride?
Oh, dude. Immediately. I wonder what I put into the Discord. I remember reacting to it like immediately when they're like, we want to take you for a ride. And I said, bro, what the fuck? And I was just like, this can't be real. Then they go into it. A game that famously like was taken down from digital platforms because of rights issues with Marvel is sort of the great white whale of the fighting game community. And there was like no official way to play it. The disc is like a $200 game now.
I think the last time it was released was it on 360 or was it on Xbox, the original Xbox?
It was on the 360 arcade, I think, for a while, and then it got taken off. But
yeah, and it's not backwards compatible. You can't play it on Xbox One.
I remember at one point our friend Max, who's a huge fighting game fiend, was like, "We're never gonna get Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Like Capcom, like it is beyond their coffers at this point. They cannot afford to do this. Like it's gone forever." And I think there were like some fan projects that like kept it going with like emulators with an online architecture of some kind. Anyway, the fact that this is coming, MVC2 with a number of other of the Marvel vs. Capcom games, that's great. I hope, I'm like nervous. Are there characters missing? Are there sound effects missing? Are there tracks missing from the soundtrack? Like there's so many things that to me feel like this could be a horrible collection if it is not truly the complete package. Marvel vs. Capcom is like the best fucking fighting game ever made. I'll hear no arguments about it. Content Create Top 100.
This has 1 and 2. Doesn't have 3. I think that feels like a notable omission. I mean, that game's old as fuck too. Why not have that one unless they want to put it in another pack? But like, where would it belong in another Capcom versus collection? Like, do Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and like Capcom vs. SNK, Capcom vs. or like Street Fighter vs. Tekken, like that kind of. I don't know where else it would belong unless they just wanted to re-release it on its own or like a full, real big boy remaster to like try and stoke the flame of MVC back up from like the hellhole that Infinite put it in.
This is clearly like an arcade classic type collection. This is about like the 2D era of fighters. MVC3 was a 3D fighter.
Kinda. I mean, it had like 2D sprites and the backgrounds were 3D, right?
Was it? I'm pretty sure it was. There were 3D models, wasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that was like 360 era.
Yeah, it was like PS3. It came into Vita.
I don't think it would fit well for sure. I think the rest of the stuff is like the hood bangers, is the old shit, is the stuff you'd find in cabinets, the stuff you find at like real old hardware. Dude, this is what the money and clout that the revitalization of your company on the heels of Monster Hunter World, on the heels of injecting Resident Evil with like a string of extremely competent remakes or remasters will do for you, is being able to go to Marvel and say, hey, we want this in fans' hands. We want this to be playable on modern hardware. Here's a big bag. Also, y'all could use a win because your movies have kind of sucked in the last 3 to 4 years. Let's get some goodwill going. I'm so fucking stoked for this. I remember freaking out when you nominated this for the top 100 just because it like unlocked that time and place of like grinding out matches with Josh and Joey in the basement in the house in Gresham on Yamhill Street. I like playing this game by myself. I don't like playing fighting games by myself, but I really fucking like playing this game by myself. I like mixing it up. I like learning every fucking character, getting all the fucking secret characters on the menu by going off in the specific direction. Like, Oh man, it has to be on the shelf. Has to be on the shelf. It'll be a future, fucking beach trip staple. We don't have to bring the fucking Dreamcast or whatever, or the PS1. We can just like slap it in the Switch, get our Pro controllers, and beat each other up like the ingrates that we are.
Yeah, I really hope that the online infrastructure is worth a goddamn. And I'll be buying it on PlayStation, so at least I won't have like any Nintendo hurdles to get over. But fighting games are totally made on its netcode and that online infrastructure. And like Capcom's done really well historically, but they've also had some stinkers. And this is like, who's porting this? Is this going to be something that they're like really going out of the way to support? Like I have no idea.
I can tell you that there are editions, like you can, do the usual check out artwork and watch some like developer interviews and stuff like that. But there's also a training mode that is brand new, never had a training mode before. And also there's rollback netcode. So the netcode seems like they are putting it like first and foremost. Like I don't know if the original you could do multiplayer like against an NPC, or if there was like only 1v1s and like that was like the only way you could play. But it seems like with the online focus, like they know that people aren't sitting next to each other playing these games anymore. So the rollback was specifically mentioned, and I think that's a good omen towards there being quality netcode.
Yeah, I don't know what the heck that means, but Max says that it should be good. And that gives me reason to hope.
So yeah, it's kind of hard to explain. I'm not going to spend time explaining it, but if you just like Google rollback and like watch a YouTube video, it will explain to you why it is often a really good way to make sure everyone has a good low latency experience. Imagine Smash Ultimate, but like nothing like that. And that's what rollback is.
Okay, so not bad.
Yes.
Yeah, I know that it's just like when you hear rollback netcode, you're like, oh, there's no input delay. Which is like a good thing for fighting games, obviously, but I'm like, how is that? Why does not every game utilize that? How come Nintendo hasn't figured that out? Like, I don't understand the machinations, why things are the way they are, and why are they ever bad. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just a philosophy thing. Like, do you want to use more CPU cycles on calculating things that might not actually be true because it feels better for one player, but if they have like really bad latency, then it might negatively, in fact, you might be rubber banding all over the place, like as you are catching up with packets as you gain them and lose them. It's not like a one size fits all approach. It's not like,
okay.
we flipped the good button and now it works good. It's about implementation and knowing what your system is capable of. Like, I don't know if the Switch version will have rollback. I don't know if there's any games on Switch that have rollback because the Switch is so like CPU starved. It does not have a very good capable chipset to work with. Obviously, it's a tablet from 2015, like you always say, EJ. So like it might not even have it for this, even though it's like an old ass game from 1999 or whatever.
Definitely buying on PlayStation. I won't entertain this on Nintendo, not for a second.
I don't blame you. Especially if you're trying to like get in some matches and like actually play this with other people not sitting next to you. I wouldn't buy it on Nintendo either.
Nick, you've said it before, but like Super Smash Brothers Ultimate, we would play that game every week. It would have been for years and years if the online was competent.
If it felt half as good as playing in person next to each other, it would be a huge victory and we would play it all the damn time. But it doesn't feel even like 25% as good as
it's like
sitting next to you.
It's unbearable.
It is really bad. It's tough. And like we don't live far apart and we both have really good internet. So like imagine matching with randoms that live halfway across the world. It is like playing underwater, but the water is also gelatin. Like it's awful.
It's cool. It's getting collected, and it's getting collected physically, which is amazing. So
it will live.
Yes.
It lives on.
In the realm of things that I did not ever expect to get physical collections that are, niche interests within one particular member of this group, we're getting a fucking Miles Edgeworth collection on Switch. Investigations 1 is a Nintendo DS game / iOS, but it's been stuck on, handheld for literally ever. And Investigations 2 has never been localized in the West. So this will literally be the first time that spinoff is released without a fan patch for the English language, which now means that every single Ace Attorney game is now playable on the Nintendo Switch. I sincerely wish the first collection of the first 3 games was available on physical hardware in North America, but it's fucking not, which means that I have to buy the whole collection on PlayAsia. because I want them all to have the same cover art style so they can match with all of the like fucking Japanese font and the numbers, which the English versions don't have. It just says like Ace Attorney Trilogy, Apollo Justice Trilogy. This was like 1, 2, 3, like Gyaku Sentai or whatever the fuck it's called. Man, I love the Nintendo Switch. I sound like a fucking shill for Nintendo, but they just keep giving us more stuff that's like, if you want to play the majority of the really good games that have ever existed on Nintendo hardware, you can probably play them on the Nintendo Switch. To the degree of like a fucking obscure ass, never localized in the West, Ace Attorney spin-off starring Miles Edgeworth that has a completely different system. And I'm fucking stoked to play these. Because I didn't own Investigations 1 on physical hardware. So I have like no idea how this game actually plays outside of what they've showed in the trailer. I've always been curious, but I'm like, I can't play the second one. Like, why would I play the first one if I can't play the second one? Because that's the way I think. I'm like, if I could get the whole story,
Yeah, you're a sick bitch.
I'm so sick. If I can't get the whole story, it just feels.
Why bother?
I can't. Yeah, I can't justify it for myself. Damn, and that's like right on the heels of Apollo Justice. I feel like didn't even get announced that long ago. It came out this year.
Yeah, I think that was maybe like a last October, last September kind of thing. I mean, they're pretty quick turnaround. They don't really need a lot of marketing lead up time, you know, and they sell what they sell. I think they're pretty popular. The Ace Attorney games, I think, are like million sellers. Like I think they crack that kind of margin. Not as like when Battle Network Collection came out and they're like, oh, we sold 5 million copies. I was like completely floored because Mega Man does not sell that well.
5 million?
Yeah, like something like that, 3 to 5. Like it sold appreciably. I'm like, damn, Capcom, people want these games. I was very surprised by that. A game series that was literally a yearly franchise for like 6 to 7 years across the Game Boy Advance, the DS. Like they were just shoving those things out the door, man. They're cramming them out, and just here they are. Like it's not like remastered or anything. It's a collection of ROMs. You know, you get some quality of life stuff, some like fast forward, and that's about it. Like, yeah,
Ace Attorney Trilogy moved 4.2 million units worldwide. The Apollo Justice Trilogy, oh wow, did not do that well. Oof, that's
yeah, no,
that's bad. 118,000 bad. That is abysmal.
No, that's like what I would expect. But 4 million for the first one is like, that's nutso numbers. Ace Attorney is more popular than Metroid, Chris. I'm sorry.
Well, the Trilogy Collection certainly is. Great Ace Attorney Collection has done...
How much did Metroid Prime Trilogy sell on the Wii? One of the most popular consoles of all time.
Oh, not good. Not good, I don't think.
Not 3 million. Oh, it was a GameStop exclusive. Ugh.
Yeah, Great Ace did 1.3 million.
That's crazy for a game called The Great Ace Attorney.
I know.
Like the Great Mouse Detective on the DS.
But again, this is Capcom. Capcom is fucking flush with cash. And they're like, what do you guys want to play? We have money to make all these stupid fucking niche titles accessible to people now that we can release it physically. And they didn't release the first one. They were not in as good a straits at that point as they are now. We will do this for you. And they did that survey recently, which Nick, I know you did, where they're like, what do you want to see more games in series? And I'm like, fucking Mega Man X, right meow, and Ace Attorney. Because I know everybody else is gonna be like, give me more Resident Evil, which I'm here for that too. Or, give me more Monster
Don't
Hunter.
worry,
Which,
you will get your Resident Evil.
Yes, it's gonna happen. But I genuinely believe that I could get a new Mega Man X and a new Ace Attorney game in the next 5 years, and I wouldn't be surprised. And I would not in a million fucking years have said that prior to like this Nintendo Direct, basically, where I'm like, oh, Investigations is getting a physical fucking release on Switch hardware. We're so fucking back. We're so fucking back, baby.
So that's like, what, 10 Ace Attorney games? 10 or 11?
Yeah, 10. Plus Professor Layton Phoenix, right, which is definitely overdue for at least getting an eShop port off the 3DS.
You'll see if level 5 is up to the task. Just a couple quick hits. I saw you just say a single thing about Mario Party Jamboree, Chris, in the Discord. I don't know if you actually have any interest in getting something like that, or if that's like hey, we're going to go to Dundee over the weekend. let's, jump rope with the fire. That's what Mario Party is to me. It's just the fire jump rope and like rolling around on snowballs
Oh, what did I
and like
say?
bullshit boards. Let me read for you specifically. Oh, good. A new Mario Party with 4 maps and 60 games probably. But guess what? It was like 7 maps and it's like over 100. It's the most mini games I've ever had. So I guess, I don't know, eat your words about something that doesn't really matter, but I don't know.
I hope they taste good because I really enjoy Mario Party. That is one of the most universal party games with people of any gaming experience. You could shove a controller in their hand and go like play Mario Party. And they'll be like, oh, cool. I played this with my cousins once on the old Nintendo and we'll be super duper down.
The old Nintendo is the Wii probably.
Oh,
Yeah, that hurt.
And then also Zero Mission confirmed.
Yeah.
And you can do Four Swords, but not Four Swords Adventure. You can do just tiny Four Swords Game Boy Advance style, but has to be with the Nintendo Online. So I don't know. Maybe we could play that in person. I don't know if the lag is actually any better when you're doing like LAN as opposed to, over the internets. But it'd be cool to go through Four Swords sometime.
Yeah, that game's fun. I'd be down for sure. I'm getting greedy now. With all these Metroids that I can play on Switch, with one more to come, which, we'll talk about. And some of these ports of 3DS games where you're like, we're really getting Luigi's Mansion 2. We're really gonna revisit that game. That's the game that we wanna put out here. That we might maybe get Samus Returns on Switch hardware. I want it because then I can do a full timeline run of every numbered Metroid game on the Nintendo Switch.
Well, you could right now. It's just that you'd have to, eat your vegetables and play the Game Boy version.
Oh, fuck
of
that.
Metroid 2.
I've done my time, okay? I have beaten that game on original hardware. I slapped it on a Super Game Boy in the summer of 2014, 10 long years
Super
ago.
Boy.
Yeah, buddy. I want it. And I get to dream like that. Damn it, they're treating us well this console generation. All my fucking Metroid shitposting groups on Facebook are more alive than they've been since Dread in 3 years or whatever we got the reveal 2 years ago. I mean, it's just everybody's fucking come out of hibernation. It's everywhere.
It really feels like at this point, I know everyone likes to complain about Switch Online because the drops are pretty insignificant at this point, but the games that are lacking, like the games that are missing the notable omissions from Nintendo first party, are so small as to just make me believe that maybe they're just doing remakes of those kinds of games instead. So it's like, it doesn't really matter. It's a really good collection at this point across the NES, the SNES, the Game Boy Advance, and the N64. Like, there's all the heroes are there, basically. You're just missing out on third party because you're not going to get third party. Those people want to sell those games. They don't want to, Nintendo's not going to pay them a lot for those games because honestly, they're probably not worth a lot. What's it worth to you? Oh, well, maybe I'll get it in a collection. I'll get the Castlevania the Advance collection. Like, yeah, that's cool. I'll pay $30 for that. I'll pay the 3 Game Boy Advance games and Rondo of Blood for some goddamn reason. I don't know why. That's not even close to the Game Boy Advance. That was a fucking weird abomination sequel, prequel to goddamn Symphony of the Night, but we still can't play Symphony of the Night on the Switch anyway. 2 big announcements for the Switch at this Direct. Let's talk about Zelda.
Oh, here we go. The woke mind virus coming in and infiltrating our hobby once again.
I'm infected, dude. I am straight blue pilled. Let's just frolic it away, consume, forget.
God forbid that we play as the titular character in a long-running and probably best-selling franchise. Is Zelda like the second best-selling franchise?
No way it tops Mario. I bet my left nut on that.
Doesn't top Mario, doesn't top Pokemon, doesn't top Animal Crossing, doesn't top Mario Kart. It's like top 10, but yeah, I mean,
Does
it is a
Pokemon
super
count?
important franchise.
That's
I
a
count
good
it.
question.
It's exclusive. Pokemon Go ain't selling, but like, name another console you can play Pokemon on. They
That's
own a
fair.
third of Pokemon. They're not like, in control of Pokemon, but it's Nintendo's.
I wish they
For
were.
all intents and purposes. Yeah, well, me too, buddy.
Okay. Mario at almost 1 billion units. That includes super kart party sports RPGs.
Yeah.
800 million. Okay. Pokemon at half a billion.
Grand Theft Auto.
Wii Sports, we're not going to count Wii Series. That doesn't count. I'm just looking at Nintendo stuff.
Okay.
Legend of Zelda is number 4 at 163 million units. So it beats Animal Crossing.
One more Animal Crossing game and it beats them, though.
It's-
I mean, Animal Crossing has had 4.5 games.
Animal Crossing has sold half as many as Zelda, but with a lot fewer games. 5 games. Plus Amiibo Festival.
Wow.
Don't forget.
Oh.
I wish I could.
Okay, so Zelda is the second best Nintendo proprietary IP, okay? Anyway, and it's called Zelda, The Legend of Zelda. And yet, we always play as Link.
That's Zelda.
Make it make sense. Oh, you're right.
What if Zelda was a girl? This game finally answers that brave question.
See, that's the thing. I wish that they had committed to going whole hog to this in the branding and called it The Legend of Link. I really wanted that. Why the
IP's too
fuck
strong.
not? Like we all know exactly what it is. Nobody's gonna look at it and go, what fucking series is this in? Is this new? Like we fucking get it. We know what it is.
Do not underestimate the people buying games.
I hear you. I like the thought behind it. I love that this is The Legend of Zelda. It's not a spin-off. This is just the next Legend of Zelda game. It validates this game. This is the next mainline Zelda game. And you just so happen to play as Zelda. So like for that purpose, I love it. And it's got such a Zelda ass subtitle too.
Echoes
of wisdom. It's just so yeah. And yeah, it's still, it's like a 3DS game. Like this could have been on a 3DS. This is like a handheld game, writ large, just like Link's Awakening was. And that's great. It's the same art style, same engine. Hopefully it runs a little bit better. That'd be great. It's probably Grezzo working on it again, whatever. It looks so good. And like, to tell you the truth, when it first opens up and it's like the same, Link's Awakening art style and Link's wearing like the blue hood, I'm like, oh, that's cool. This is cool. This is nice. This is cheap. This cinematic in the beginning, super cheap, really low rent. And like, you're watching it and it's like, oh, it's, as soon as the crystal breaks, you're like, oh, you can play as Zelda. That's really cool. And then she runs out and it's like, this looks cheap. And then it pans up to the world. You're like, maybe that's actually going to be good. And then they show you more gameplay. I think it was a really smart reveal. Like it's because if you just show it, and you can't do the thing that Link's Awakening did. You already did that. You already did the animated intro of the iconic opening moments of Link's Awakening on the Game Boy with that music, that like haunting off, like not yet off key, but it's like a 5/8 fucking intro melody. And it's like, it's so memorable and iconic. You can't do that again for a new IP. Like you can't introduce it that way. So you have to introduce it the way people are going to see it when they actually see the actual game. And that's hard to do. And I think they stumbled a little bit. I think they could have done more. They could have done a better job with that opening cinematic to make it look more important. But they totally 180 redeemed it by showing you the amount of verbs you have in this game and just like opening up your mind to the possibilities of all these puzzle solving techniques and taking things from Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, which like blew up the way you could interact with the world around you, but shrinking it down and making you like you could see everything around you in such a confined space with this top-down perspective, this like classic Zelda. And suddenly you're like, okay, well, I can summon this, and this. And like I'm watching this and like seeing like, oh, I can't wait to do that. Every time Zelda does something in this trailer, I'm like, I can't wait to do that. I can't wait to summon this weird piranha plant looking guy to kill enemies. I can't wait to fly with a bird down this cliff. I can't wait to stack beds and be a mischief maker, sneaking into the Gerudo town or whatever's happening in that scene. It's just really exciting. It got me really pumped. And it's soon. This comes out in like September. It's like 2 months away at this point. It was 3 months when they showed the trailer. It's like, we had no idea this was happening. Nobody's like suspected a new 2D Zelda in like this style. Like everyone's like, oh, there might be like a remake of Oracle games. Like that'd be cool. And like, I agree that would be cool. But this is like a new game. It's just utilizing the same art style and like engine that Link's Awakening had, which I loved. So it's like everything I could really want without me having having to ask for it. It just happened to me.
First 2D Zelda game on home console since A Link to the Past, which is a fucking crazy sentence. I know that when we got to the 64, it was like all 3D all the time. And people were like, oh, A Link Between Worlds, which like iterated on the formula in, my limited time with the game was like interesting, but didn't grab me in the same way that the like discovery of the new tools and accessing new areas, Metroid build shit like excites me. Yeah, it's the Breath of the Wild piece, the Tears of the Kingdom piece, where they're like, how can we move forward with 2D Zelda in a way that is meaningful and in a way that makes it feel like it's part of the movement that we've already started? I had always I longed for, and we're never going to see this, we don't have to, but when they were testing early stuff for Breath of the Wild, they built that like top-down Zelda 1 style stuff where you could use all the different tools so that the developers could like play around in that and see how different things would work and interact with each other. It was like, I would love to have that. Like, I would love to just play that technical demo. I think that would be super fucking cool. If you put that in a box and charge $30 for it, I would buy it.
Tears of the Kingdom DLC.
Dude, right? And they've basically done that, taken that design premise. It was cool to me to see Aonuma talking about it, not just because like, he's the fucking producer of the Zelda series, but specifically him because he's become such the face of the new Zelda, the movement towards the stuff that we've seen with these last two games that for a lot of people revolutionized open world gaming. That's up for debate, obviously, and we've litigated that more than enough times on this particular podcast. But having him there as as clear sign as they could possibly have sent, this is the future. And I love that. And I'm with you, dude. I saw like the columns of water going up as a way of like ascending up a cliff. And I'm like, I wonder what other kinds of things I could do to get up the sides of cliff. It's like I can't wait. What I can't wait for is for my Instagram feed and all of my like For You page on all of my fucking social medias to just be flooded with solutions to puzzles and echoes of wisdom. They're like, I fucking never would have thought to do that. That was the great fun of Tears of the Kingdom. It's like, how the fuck did he? I just saw another one of those recently that somebody took the baby skeleton,
Made a Metal Gear,
but took the baby skeleton in, I think it's a Gerudo Desert one, and built it out in auto build. Because once you stick the head and the tail on it, it's in your auto build, and then turn that into a warship. And I'm like, that's so fucking cool. Like I would have never in a million years thought to utilize auto build for that. It's just gonna be great. It's just gonna be great. And again, nobody fucking saw this coming. We were joking about this. I've been saying it for months. I'm eating crow again of like, they can't possibly have anything that we don't know about. It's gonna be all ports and remasters, maybe oh, that's really cool. And God help me, maybe we'll, get Prime 4 this year. RIP Fantasy Critic, Chris's League. But here's a fucking tentpole Zelda out of the hat. Nobody called it. Nintendo taking us all to school again, saying, fuck your Sunset Slate. Fuck your expectations for us. Have a great game. You're fucking welcome. And buy a Switch 2 in March while you're at it.
EJ, did this tickle your chumbus?
You know how I feel about Zelda, and 2D Zelda in particular.
Not a lot. You don't feel a lot.
Of course, Nick, you got this in the league, so this is probably going to score you fucking 30 points. And
I would love that.
Inevitably, Brennan, who stupidly did not once again listen to me and should have been able to just win this game and not worry about it, he got stuck with Mario. And that's probably going to be like a 79, and he's just going to lose his shit. That would also be good for me. But yeah, I'm glad it's happening. But come on, we've edged Chris enough.
Well, before we let Chris get to his climactic triumph, I do want to comment that one of the things that is so surprising about all this is that it makes you wonder, they're releasing all these games on Switch in the next like 6 months or so, a little bit longer for Metroid Prime 4, which we'll get to. But what does that mean for Switch 2? What does that mean for what they have for their first year? They probably have like just a ridiculous slate of games at this point, which is like dangerous, obviously, for me to get that excited. But like when I see this being their 7th year Nintendo Direct for summer, where they're like, don't get your hopes up. Don't think about it. We got the B team and maybe some ports and remasters, whatever. And they give us all this bounty. What does that mean for Switch 2? That's just where my mind obviously goes there, because that's the future. We're always looking ahead. We're always looking at the next shiny thing, even the things that are announced. We're thinking about the things that are unannounced.
Well, we know what it means. It means that Switch 2 is going to be backwards compatible, and they are like, we don't need to have that killer app. We just need to give people a reason to continue to buy the software that we're still pumping out. But it means that a new Mario mainline game is coming, and it means a new Mario Kart is coming. That's what we can expect in the first year. You're probably gonna get like Tears of the Kingdom DLC Ultimate Edition, like shit like that. Like they're gonna go full Sony on a Switch 2 because a new mainline Zelda's not coming. They're releasing this one on the Switch, but I don't know. I mean, Smash Bros seems unlikely, right? It's gonna be a Metroid dual release.
Ultimate came out in 2018.
6 years. Yeah, we're due.
And if we get Mario Kart, that'll be our first new Mario Kart in 15 years.
Well,
if you want to count the 3DS one, we don't have to. We can go back to the Wii. When was that? Like 2008, 2007?
Long fucking time.
Anyway, Metroid Prime 4.
Oh my god!
We got a sign of life. We got a photo of a hand next to a recent newspaper. Don't worry, guys. Samus lives.
Stop. Fuck you. Yeah, man, we go to black. Here's the one more thing. We get that and that font, and I immediately know we're so fucking back. Here we are. We get a trailer, an honest to God trailer with a little bit of gameplay footage, which I'll talk about. But the big thing, the biggest thing. There's so many big things. It's got a subtitle. It's got a release window. It is the game that I hoped that we were going to get after all these years of edging of the series producer saying there's a story I want to tell about this particular character, that apparently he even dropped some tidbits in fucking Federation Force, which I didn't play. Fake fan, I know. We are getting the story of, we're getting the Silex Revenge Tour, and presumably some information on like who this fucking guy is and why he's got such a hate boner for Samus. He's got fucking Metroids or Mocktroids. We're not really sure. The internet's been hotly debating this for weeks now at this point of like, are those actually Metroids or are they Mocktroids from Super Metroid, the like failed clones that the pirates had? We're not really sure. And the game looks fucking fantastic. It looked so good in the trailer that the initial wave of speculation was this has to be Switch 2 footage. There's no fucking way that's running on a Nintendo Switch. That was a broad question across the internet. And then, of course, like Digital Foundry debunked it. They were like, no, this is just Retro doing what Retro Studios does and pushing a Nintendo console to its absolute limit when they're given time to fucking cook. And the gameplay we saw it's Metroid Prime, which is what we wanted. I don't know if I'm in the minority or the majority here, but I am staunchly of the opinion that I don't want them to fuck with the formula of how these games work because it fucking works. There's no reason to remove the target and strafe system. There's no reason to remove the shots tracing to other people. Because Metroid Prime is an adventure game in which you happen to be able to shoot. It's not a shooter. And I've maintained that for a long fucking time. And many times on this podcast.
It would be a lot better if it was, though.
It'd be a lot cooler.
Be a lot better than 3, 4 if you count the remaster plus 90 scores on review aggregation websites. I don't know how much cooler you can get than that, buddy. You don't like it, that's your prerogative, and we know your feelings on that unfinished attempt. But look, the internet's going fucking crazy right now. I've never been so active in my Metroid shit posting groups in my life. People like breaking down things in the trailers, like there's no beam ammo, there's no beam indicator on the right-hand side of the screen. So like, are we getting beam stacking again? People spotted a new indicator light on the side of the arm cannon, and folks were like, ooh, is that the beam indicator? Is it, what's the fucking word you used for it, Nick?
Diegetic.
Thank you. Diegetic user interface, where it's like a part of the system that you're looking at as opposed to just like, here's your beams. The missiles are on the left-hand side in a 4-pane panel. So we're presumably going to get some different tools, potentially with limited ammunition that you can cycle in. Are we going to get the grapple beam over there with some more offensive capabilities like they did in Prime 3, but without all the waggle bullshit? What's the device the Federation is rushing out of the base while Silex is fucking raining hell down upon them at the helm of a whole cadre of space pirates? Why is there an icon, a little like indicator hologram over one of the computers that looks a lot like, I think it looks like the logo, the Prime 4 logo. Why is that there?
And the thing they're wheeling out also looks like the logo, which also looks like an event horizon of a black hole / wormhole as popularized by the hit film Interstellar.
It does look like an accretion disk on a black hole. It also looks like, and this is a deep pull, which interesting and dangerous line of thinking because it makes me titillated.
Like an exploded planet, perhaps?
It looks, if you go back and look at the end of Super Metroid, it is almost the exact same color and the exact same shape as the destruction of planet Zebes.
Samus has quite the fucking track record for blowing up planets.
She sure fucking does. Well, she's like, her body count's like, what, 3 now? Did she destroy ZL whatever the fucking Dread? Did that just get whole hog blown up?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
so,
that got blown.
So her body count's
An
at
SR, Zebes. Did any of the planets in 3 get blown up?
3. Phase got blown up, so I guess that'd be 4.
Oh, well, yeah.
So I guess 4.
But not like any of the other planets, not
No, like
Skytown
Brio and yeah,
planet.
no, those didn't get blown up. How fucking tight would it be if? So beyond, people are speculating like, is this like, certainly we're going to be traveling between spaces. Like there's a portal, there's a rift behind Samus at the end trailer. We get that big sweeping pan of this jungle world with birds and waterfalls and shit. So we're going to be moving through some kind of rifts between spaces. Are we going to be moving between times? Is Silex a figure from the future or a figure from the past? Does he have a direct relationship to Samus? People are speculating like, is that advanced Chozo tech? And that's like Samus's kid from a future where she fucked up his life. Like, is this Adam?
No, that's Adam Malkovich's younger brother.
I was going to say, is it Adam Malkovich's younger brother, Ian, who was like deserted by them, like come back for revenge? That would be way too on the nose for me. It would be too neat.
Some manga bullshit. That's some other M nonsense. Let's keep that out of this timeline.
Yeah, no thank you. No fucking thank you.
Banish that.
But if it is both space and time that we are going beyond, are we going to a 3-dimensional rendering of Zebes across all those different areas? I will fucking cream myself if we get some time in like the caverns of Zebes in a 3-dimensional, like fully beautifully rendered Retro Studios environment. Needless to say, I'm very fucking excited. It was a little deflating to see 2025, but that did nothing to generally curb my overall enthusiasm that this game is finally out of the vapors. It is here. It is well in development. And we're right on track with Nintendo's fucking time and time again, their marketing timeline of, here is your first trailer with a little bit of information in a date window. We're going to give you a dedicated video later on, a dedicated, not necessarily direct, although I'm starting to hope, where you get more specific gameplay, some breakdowns from, Mr. Narrator translating so-and-so. I think, honest to God, we could maybe get a whole ass Metroid Direct where they'll show us the release dates for the Prime 2 and 3 remasters. Maybe we get that Samus Returns, like port to Switch, and then we get a fat fucking feature, like a 20-minute thing. We get a fucking deep dive on Beyond. Because that is, like, we are solidly confirmed now, I think, that is probably going to be the last first-party release on the Switch. Now that we're rolling over into getting close to Switch 2's estimated release window. And it's like, what other, I know we said this earlier this year. What the fuck other games are they going to put out? Like, there's no way mainline Mario is this generation. There's no way Mario Kart is this generation. Donkey Kong ? Like, we just got that port, so maybe that's a sign of things to come. But we're getting a new fucking Zelda on Switch now, and there's no way 3D Zelda is going to be ready to go. So, like, this has to be the last one, right? Like, this will be the last title.
EJ nailed it by saying that this whole direct is saying the Switch 2 is likely going to be backwards compatible. And what that means is Nintendo putting their B tier games on the base Switch, so you can buy it on the Switch or on the Switch 2. Because maybe you haven't bought the new Switch and you still want to get Kirby something. They did that with 3DS. I mean, they put Mario Maker on 3D. They ported Mario Maker to 3DS after the Switch came out. And like Yoshi's Woolly World ported to 3DS. I mean, you like, WarioWare Top 100 or whatever. You get all these kind of compilations. That was a bit different because it was desperation. But I think that same kind of ethos carries forward into potential more Switch 1 games. But I don't know if they're going to do. It all depends on how they do it. If they do split SKU, or if there's like an upgrade path, or like how compatible are they? Are they physically compatible? Is it like the 3DS where you can put the DS cart in there and that stretches the screen out weird and you don't have 1-to-1 pixels and it looks kind of ugly? Or is it like you put the Switch card in and it just plays the good version? Is there a good version? Like a lot of question marks, but I think that still leaves room for there to be more games, but definitely not to the scale of Metroid Prime 4. Like that is going to be the big boy, the big swan song of the console. I think I agree with you there.
As someone who's only invested in this game, as far as it pertains to the Fantasy Critic League, is this going to be the number 1 pick next year?
Grand Theft Auto is still a going concern.
Okay, we don't know enough about that to know if it'll actually come out next year. But this is for sure coming out next year. There's no way it's not. So
is it?
Oh, come on! The morning we were watching this, I mean, like, part of me was like, okay, we got Mario, we got Zelda. Surely there can't be anything more. And I just was like, you know what? They're gonna give us our one more thing. And at 7:40 a.m. I put into the Discord, I'm feeling Metroid Prime 4 2025 right now at 7:41 a.m. Chris, oh my fucking God. I nailed it in the plums, bro. And I'm sitting here just waiting. I'm like, I need that 2025. I need that 2025.
Hey, I mean, we don't know if Chris was on a 60-second tape delay. It would be the first time he sent something and then, it just sort of travels in the ether, bouncing around, trying to find satellite connection up in Alaska. We don't know. Could have been anything. That was before Alaska, but you get my point.
Something was telling me in my gut that morning, it's about to happen. And then it happened.
Once they said that DK Returns was January, I started to have a little bit of doubt as to, even when the trailer started, is this going to be, am I going to see a 4 or a 5 at the end of that? And then truthfully, I should have expected with a one more thing, it wasn't going to be 2024, that if this was the 2024 release, that it would have had a similar treatment to Echoes of Wisdom, where they're like, here's a few minutes of gameplay where we can actually give you like a little bit clearer sign. It felt very much like a, hey, we're alive, more to come very soon kind of thing.
I thought this trailer was fine. It showed us another Metroid Prime game. It did no more. It did no less. It did nothing to excite or tantalize anyone except for the most hardcore, like, diehard Metroid fans. Chris among them. I watched it and I thought, boy, feels like I'm traveling through time just watching this. This looks like a game from 2010. Like it looks beautiful, but like the design and like everything they're doing with it has not changed in one iota. Obviously, they can show more. But for this teaser, for like them showing this game for like an advertisement, I don't think this showed anything, literally anything, that's going to convert people into Metroid fans or to excite people into this franchise beyond it just being a meme that it got announced in 2017 as a JPEG and then rebooted 2 years later because of development woes. So I'm excited that Metroid Prime 4 exists. I will play this game day one with you, Chris. I will likely enjoy it. I enjoyed all 3 other games. But I don't think this was a brilliant first showing. First real showing. And I think that is a little bit disappointing. Like this could have been, it's a meme, obviously, to like compare to these games, but it could have been their Breath of the Wild unshackling from old design stereotypes, from the tried and true, the maybe a little tired, and like take a bold new step forward, which is what the original Prime was. That was a very bold step, especially for Metroid, and it was going to toe against some of the biggest first-person IP that like wasn't huge then, but it became huge. Like you think of Metroid Prime came out the same year later than Halo 1 on the Xbox, and like these games that stand the test of time, and Metroid Prime 4 was not that. All they showed was like, no, we are being safe. What happened before, what you'll never hear about, what you'll never know about, except maybe 20 years in the future, was a mistake. We made mistakes, and now we have to go back to square one and do the safe thing because we can't fuck it up. That's what it said to me. This is not God of War 2018. This is Metroid Prime 4, one word, space noun. And like, that's cool. I'm excited for that, but it could have been so much more. And that would have been mind-bogglingly exciting. But instead, it's just like, cool, it exists. It was a sign of life, like you said, Chris. That's all.
It reminded me a lot of the Tears of the Kingdom trailer, the very first one, where we were like, there's a game. I sure wish I knew what this was about or what we're doing, which is exactly why I'm big chillin'. This in a vacuum as a trailer, they did not give us any indication of what are you going to do in this that isn't just we're doing Metroid Prime for the fourth time. We'll see those features. If they're going to be fucking with time, man, that could scramble some eggs for sure. That could really cook some noodles. Yeah, you right. You definitely right. And that's the downside to the Nintendo playbook of, look, this game exists. Now you're going to wait until we're going to give you the full information that maybe we could have just given you the first time, but we want it to stay in the press and we want to make sure that like the marketing cycle can ramp up at the pace we want it to, and also pay no attention to the man behind the curtain working on our new console. Please just wait for more news please stand by for news about future Nintendo Switch titles.
Please be excited.
Yeah, I'm glad you put that on tape because I think I've seen a good bit of that across the interwebs.
What have we been playing? You guys been playing things?
Boy. Yeah, I'm like 40 hours deep into Elden Ring DLC, Shadow of the Erdtree. Man, what a good game. What a good DLC. This could have been just another game. It is a full-ass game's worth of game. There's so much to find. There's so much to fight. There's so many things to do and kill and be killed by. It's just astounding. And nobody else does it like FromSoft. Like, just the creativity and the creature design. I'm fighting such horrible sickos. Every time something happens, I'm like, ugh, that's so cool. This sucks. I'm getting my ass handed to me relentlessly. And then finally, I download the playbook and I get into it and I get that victory. And it's always exhilarating. It's always thrilling. These boss encounters are like 10 out of 10. Maybe that's the build I'm rocking. I know there's been like some, scuttlebutt on Steam because people are mad because it's hard. And it's like, yeah, the game's always been hard, bro. I don't know what's new. What happened?
Get good.
But also Elden Ring sold like 20, 30 million copies. Like, it's one of the most popular games ever made. So maybe that's just all it is. Like, people are like, oh, I don't get it. It's hard. So I don't know. But yeah, it's hard. And I love it. So it's great. I'm having a great time. I'm like, I've unlocked the entire map. It's got a map, EJ. You played enough to like see that there's a map with like Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Demon Souls, no map. You just got to remember where things are, and that rules because you learn it like the back of your hand, and it's like you have the map in your brain, and you're like moving it like a Rubik's cube, solving it, finding little back entrances and shit, and that rules. But for a game of this scope and this size, it's like if Zelda, instead of focusing on the puzzle stuff, purely focused on the combat and exploration. Like, you're not unlocking new tools to get you from point A to point B. You're just like leveling up. You're just getting stronger. You're getting new tools, new weapons, and these new weapons are so cool. I got a hammer that you charge up the R2, like the heavy attack, and you start spinning around and you throw it like fucking Thor, and then it reappears in your hand because it's like made of magic or whatever. That's just so sick. Like, I just want to watch GIFs of people wrecking dudes with this item I found. I'm probably not going to because I'm not spec'd out for that build, but I could go respec. I've got so many larval tiers.
That's sick
I can
as
go back
shit.
to the moon bitch and say, hey,
so cool.
I'll move all my points from strength, put in arcane. Let's go in arcane build. Let's throw magic at people. Let's do a glintstone, look like the Burger King, and like have horrific shit erupting from my palms. Just like animations happening. It's so cool. Elden Ring's really tight. And it's scary as hell. You saw those giant hands that were like tackling me like they were weird spider crab monsters. So many fingers. There's like 30 fingers on that thing. It's like Master Hand's weird twisted cousin, like incest baby from The Hills Have Eyes. It's all nightmare fuel. It's horrific, but it's so evocative. It makes me think about it a lot. Thinking about it right now. I want to go play that game after this.
Makes me uncomfortable. I watched you play a little bit. I watched Brent play a little bit. It's creepy.
Falling down a hole. I got to the bottom of that hole. I killed that guy. A nightmare horseman in the swamp puddle.
I gotta tell
Throwing
you,
goop at me.
what drives me fucking crazy is the way Brennan gets when we play Call of Duty, and he's so in his feelings about it. And he's like, fuck this. I never want to play this game. Just for him to turn around and sit there, and I'm listening to him talk to himself play Elden Ring, and he's like, fuck this. And then him just like rage quitting after getting turbo smashed by a boss for like 2 hours. And I'm like, how dare you? How fucking dare you react this way to a game that you're sitting here playing with your friends just to go and fucking play this game that makes you want to put a gun to your head? I take offense to it.
The best games are the ones that make you the most mad. Have you ever watched a sports game and just gotten mad because you care so much?
Yeah, all the time.
That's FromSoft, baby. That's just getting pissed. That's getting in your feelings. You're getting sweaty. You got the yips, as Chris likes to say. You're shooketh. You got to put the controller down, come back fresh the next day. First try that boss because you're cool, you're calm, you're collected. You got your 8 hours, you got your 40 winks. That's all you really needed. Is you need to take a deep breath. You need some meditation. You need to find God. Seek grass.
EJ, you watched 82 games of the worst Trailblazers team of the last probably 20 fucking years this year. And you're going to tell me you don't understand the appeal of playing a game that is hard. My brother in Christ, you played Dark Souls this year. It was the Portland Trailblazers
No, I didn't,
23-24
because
season.
I'm a reasonably well-adjusted individual whose mental health does not predicate on how my sports teams do or how well I play at video games.
I'm not.
You enjoyed every one of those terrible fucking games. That's what you're telling me. You watched them.
Define enjoy.
Okay, there we have it. There we have it. EJ, what are you playing? What are you playing?
Oh, man, I was kind of all over the map for a while. Bought a lot of shit on the Steam sale. Played Bloons Tower Defense for quite a few evenings there.
Shout out Bloons. What a deep pull. Oh my God, man. That takes me back to throwing on a fucking proxy in Bridges in freshman year, fucking Gresham High School, and playing Bloons while Miss whatever the fuck wasn't paying attention.
I'm learning how to type.
So I don't know if I mentioned on the podcast. I know I've mentioned you guys. I've been just like pretty deep down the history rabbit hole, just all over the place. Titanic and, you know, ancient Greece and like just like the most random shit, pirates, like whatever. And I kind of went down the ancient Egyptian rabbit hole, and I've been kind of stuck there for the last couple of weeks, just reading and watching and listening to podcasts, just like the most. Dude, I listened to a 2-hour podcast the other day on like First Dynasty, like metallurgy, and I was just like, yeah, this is fascinating stuff right here. Tell me more about bronze. So I was like
smithing for me.
Dude, I just was like, man, I want to like fuck around in Egypt, man. Wait, didn't Assassin's Creed do Egypt? So I boot up the PlayStation and I go and I'm like, dude, Assassin's Creed Origins 2017, free as fuck. So I install it and I start playing it and I'm like, oh, this is exactly what I wanted to see, baby. It drops you straight into a fucking tomb and you're chasing some dude and you assassinate his face off. And I'm like, dude, we're in it. And then I promptly discover that the audio on the PlayStation 5 or PlayStation 4 version, I guess, is literally unbearable. And so I turned it off and bought it on Steam and I'm playing it on my PC instead. But I am like 20 hours into that, and I have so many thoughts about this game and about this franchise. Chris, you're a big Assassin's Creed guy, or were a big Assassin's Creed guy. Tell me if you agree with this or not. People would love the Assassin's Creed franchise so much more if they just waited an extra 18 months between every single release.
I think that's pretty fair to say, because I think it was not too long after that point that they stopped going for annual releases because they're like, we're not meeting our standards of quality. And they had completely fucking abandoned a number of the meta narratives running through the game. All the Abstergo stuff was pretty much like thrown in the garbage can. There was no modern day plot anymore. And that I think is directly a result of the fact that they were like making all these games at the same time. Like, we literally can't. We're not even going to bother. So I think I would give that a solid agree.
They were literally doing annual releases basically since like the first Assassin's Creed game. You had Creed 2, Brotherhood Revelations, finished the Ezio trilogy. They did AC3 and then Black Flag, which were kind of related. Between Black Flag, which I would argue is like the pinnacle of the franchise in a lot of ways, they did Rogue, Unity, and then Syndicate. Like, it's just relentless. And I think I said this to Nick last week, that like people complain about the Ubisoft formula, but the Ubisoft formula is one that works and games keep using it for a reason. And I think the problem that so many people have with Ubisoft games, especially now that we have, I mean, look at some of PlayStation's offerings with Spider-Man and Horizon. That's the Ubisoft
Ghost.
formula. Ghost especially. But there's so much more emphasis on character and storytelling that Assassin's Creed has, I don't think for a really long time, really done that well when they have focused on it. When people say, oh, we're sick of this formula, I don't know if you're sick of the formula. I think you're just used to getting maybe a more complete package from other developers at this point. But like, the formula works. So all of that aside, Assassin's Creed has always nailed the setting and the world that we're visiting, to the point that like there's a very specific feeling that I don't know how to articulate yet. That return, it came flooding back to me when I dropped in and started playing Origins, that I'm like, this is the Assassin's Creed feeling. I don't know how to describe it, but I only feel it when I'm playing Assassin's Creed games. And I played 2, I played 3, I played Black Flag, I played Rogue. I haven't played all these games, but there's a certain feeling of like, it's like this surreal feeling of being in this place that I know, like I recognize, but it is brought to life in such a way that like no one's ever seen it like this before. And so it's like this, is that like the opposite of like a liminal space where you're like, think about like going into your elementary school at night and it's like that feeling, but different, where I'm like going into this place that I recognize, but it's not the way it should look. But it's awe-inspiring. I'm like, oh my God.
It is. And they recreate these historical environments, or they did up to the point that I played, which was Origins, basically, with such an absolutely psychopathic level of detail that it's like coming home to somewhere you've never been. You're like, this is so incredibly convincing. I feel like I've been here. It's like a friend of mine has a term, this isn't quite applied, that she, to her knowledge, made up, called nostalgia, which is a feeling of longing for something that was never actually real, that you never actually experienced. And it feels like that for me. And that was the great fun of it, was landing and going, this, I would completely believe that this is what this looked like. This is what this felt like. This was the way that these people, these communities moved and existed and functioned together. Because of how well done it is. It is the star of every Assassin's Creed game.
So Origins was 16, Odyssey was 17, which I played in like 2019, and then Valhalla in 2020, which I also played on the Xbox Series X. It was weird to kind of go back to this game that I missed, both as someone who's played a lot of Assassin's Creed, but also as somebody who like is obsessed with ancient Egypt right now and has always kind of had a fascination with ancient Egypt. So I'm down this rabbit hole. This, to my eyes, is without a doubt the most accurate setting that Assassin's Creed, that Ubisoft has ever recreated, like in a video game. Like, obviously, there's a lot of unknowns about this world, and this is like toward the end of ancient Egypt as we think of them. Like, this is like Cleopatra, Julius Caesar. Like, this is after the Greeks have taken over and the Romans are basically about to fully take over here. So it's at the end of a 4,000-year-old dynasty, basically. And what's cool about that is, like, we know a lot more about this place because of the Greco-Roman influence and all of the different contemporary, like, historical documentation that we have for that era. Like, it makes sense that they chose this time period. But it is this feeling that I'm describing is, like, only existing in these kinds of games is so magnified by going, like, for example, the pyramids in Giza. They still have their white limestone encasing, still have their gold cap, but just around the base and up one corner, it's starting to totally decay, and it looks like the pyramids look today. And the whole city around Giza is abandoned. There's nobody there. Nobody lives there. Some of these monuments have already fallen into disrepair. Collapsed roofs. Sand has started to overtake, so some of these buildings are filled, a story high with sand. Like, clearly someone lived here 3,000 years ago. And that's so interesting from, like, my perspective as someone in 2024 who knows these images of Egypt thousands of years later, and to think that, like, people lived in this time period experiencing this decay as we know it in real time. Like, it just boggles my mind how long the Egyptians were, like, the center of power on Earth. It's fucking crazy. Anyway, fascinates me. Being in this world is amazing. I was watching a few different documentaries on, like, and reviews by Egyptologists of, like, what Origins got right. And it just blew my mind. I wish that this formula wasn't so stale for people, and I wish that a different company besides Ubisoft was helming this franchise, because the people who make these games are doing some of, like, the most amazing work in video games and have been for a really long ass time. Anyway, I could go on and on and on about all these, like, cool things, because it's not even about the gameplay. The gameplay's fine. The combat's good. Like, a huge upgrade from, like, something like Black Flag. Like, that's great. Characters are fine. It's an interesting story. It's a revenge story about a father who loses his son. He's basically just on a quest for revenge. And I'm like, dude, super simple. Like, I love going and killing child killers. That's great. Say no more. I'm in.
Sign me up.
But dude, I'm just exploring. I'm just going around places like I'm like, ooh, I wonder if I visit Memphis, will I see the ancient dam? That there was a 40-foot dam around Memphis that kept the Nile River out, but it's been lost to time. Like, will I see that if I go to Memphis? Will I see the ruin of the dam? And that's the kind of thing that I'm just, like, geeking out over. I'm like, I have no idea. I'll find out when I get there. I'm going to ride on horseback across the entirety of Egypt to go find out. But also, again, like I said, as someone who also played Odyssey and Valhalla, those games are not the most accurate, and they feel less authentic, especially Valhalla, which was just, what does everybody think the Vikings were like? That's the game we'll make.
Was gonna say, you can't really do an accurate Viking setting without more raping and dismembering people and generally being horrible to everything that moves that is not a Viking. So that was DOA in terms of authenticity from the start.
And then we had Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima comes along, and, like, the setting is amazing, but it's extremely one note. And this is something that I loved about Black Flag being the Caribbean. And you're having, all of these different cultural influences in that period of time in that part of the world. Same thing here in Origins. Egypt being this, like, interesting cross-section between, like, the Egyptians and the Greeks and the Romans and the Persians and the Nubians and, like, all these people. There's just so much to look at and listen to, and it's amazing. And I am so bummed that Assassin's Creed is going back to Japan, especially because I don't think feudal Japan's really that interesting.
They've never been to Japan. We've been waiting.
Ghost of Tsushima just did it.
Okay.
So it's like too little too late. People were calling for do a fucking ninja game for 15 years, and they're doing it too little too late. Feudal Japan's not that interesting. It's pretty one note. The climate's the same. The buildings are all the same. It's just not that interesting after 10 hours of romping around in it. How many times have I started Ghost of Tsushima? And I just cannot stick with it. And I'm finding out that, like, these games, as cliche as it is to say, the world is the main character in these games. It's so fucking true. That is what keeps me engaged with these types of games. And if the world, like Ghost, is just kind of one note, I'm going to fall off quickly. But if it's something that's as colorful as Origins has been, dude, I'm obsessed. And, dude, they have this thing called, like, Discovery Mode, where it's just like a guided tour with no enemies or NPCs. And it's just like this, like, hours and hours and hours of exploring this, like, beautifully recreated continent, practically. And it's just like, here are all the monuments. And it's like this crazy history tour. That's, to me, amazing, and shows how much work this team puts into it. And, like, no game fucking does that.
Yeah, that was a big deal when Origins came out. Discovery Mode was a big fucking deal. Like, they really put that front and center and were like, we know this is why a lot of you are here, is to look for the way that we're recreating these environments. So let's just fucking give you the tour.
I think they ended up patching into Odyssey and Valhalla, but again, Odyssey was, I think, kind of the straw that broke the camel's back as far as like authenticity. I think that was like a much more a melding of like eras, and taking a lot more of like the mythical view of that time period.
Well, they saw great success, I think, with the DLC for Origins, which has you fighting like Ra and shit.
Oh, so they I know Valhalla did that too, where they were like, all right, Ragnarok, shit's gonna go down. It's like, okay, so we're totally off the rails with what this franchise set out to do, which is unfortunate.
But, you know, it's also in keeping with the weird bullshit that is like the actual story of Assassin's Creed with like the Apple of Eden and the aliens and the weird bullshit no one really should care about, but are forced to because they like hanging out in Egypt with the homies.
When it was good, it was good. When it was good, it was good. They had a really solid, coherent plot rolling all the way into Assassin's Creed 3, and then they fucking fell on their faces. They fumbled the bag. This whole, like, we have to avert the launch of this satellite with the Apples of Eden because they're going to take advantage of this solar storm to, like, mass brainwash people, which has been the Templars' plan forever, like mass control of humanity using the devices. And they're basically like, oh, yeah, we couldn't shoot the satellite. It's like literally like a one-line write-off with this, like, oh, yeah, we couldn't do it. Like, what? Like 5 games I've been waiting for you to do this, and you're just like, we're not doing that anymore.
Because they want to make 15 more Assassin's Creed.
Dude, they got buried under the weight of like their own, you know, all these things they were trying to set up. And it turns out you can't really string something like that along. They should have just told the story and ended it. And I thought they did with the Ezio trilogy. You know, spoiler alert, homeboy dies and saves the universe, and then we pick up with Assassin's Creed 3, and it's like, and it turns out Abstergo was back to their old ways. And it just
Desmond's not dead. Desmond's not dead in Revelations.
I thought he died. Didn't he? No,
he dies at the end of 3. But that's where it started getting fucky in terms of like how that related to what to that point was the A plot of that series was him averting this Abstergo launch using the Apples of Eden. Yeah, that's when it fully fell off the rails, jumped the track, got lost in the sauce, however you want to put it. But 3 was the one. Yeah, and then Desmond just kind of dies, and then you just kind of move on. And
that was peak Ubisoft and their creative bankruptcy at the top, trickling down and affecting all of their products.
It fucking sucks because it was totally, they were on track. It was working. It was interesting.
The modern day plot in Origins, at least, is almost non-existent. Like there's like a computer you can rifle through and like learn a bunch of stuff that I didn't care to learn. And every time it rips you out, you can just go right back in. And I'm like, yep, I don't care to find out what's going on. I do not care. I just want to play as this person. But I do like that there's this modern day aspect to it because just from like a design standpoint, like the design language of the Animus itself and how that's evolved over the last 10 years and how that impacts both the UI, but also some of the gameplay elements. Like that's a really cool conceit. So like, I'm glad it's still there instead of people say like, oh, it should just be a straight like historical game like Ghost of Tsushima ended up being. And I'm like, I don't know if that's true. I just think they should reset and make the modern day stuff a lot more cool because this is a fascinating science fiction conceit that they have run into the ground and now done nothing with. So anyway, this is a 7-year-old game and I'm just playing it for the first time and I'm like, holy crap, turns out this game is good. I think it's got an 84 on OpenCritic, and I go back to the like, dude, if these games came out every 4 years, they would review so much better and they would be remembered so much more fondly than they are. Instead of being a dirty word, Ubisoft, Assassin's Creed, they would be up there, I think, in the upper echelon of like third-person action-adventure games. This, same way Call of Duty would be the best shooter ever made if they didn't put out a fucking shitty repeat every single year. So it's just a bummer. It's just a bummer. I wish any other company had it. Well, maybe not any other company. Be careful what you wish for.
You can't meaningfully
Konami?
iterate. Oh God, yeah. Assassin's Creed Pachinko win. You can't meaningfully iterate on a formula if you're releasing every year. And that's what the problem became when people started to get tired of it. Is like it works and I have been given too much Blackberry Cobbler. You have shoved Blackberry Cobbler down my throat every day for a week, and I don't want cobbler anymore. It doesn't taste good. I don't care that you've added a half an ounce more lemon juice or done, 5% less topping. Like it doesn't matter. It doesn't make a difference.
Right. The fact that so many different studios, because these games have 4-year dev cycles at least. Like, it's different studios working on them. So you're kind of seeing the iteration that they're kind of taking cues from each other as these things are being developed simultaneously. But like, it's not meaningful enough of a jump year over year. And what happens a lot of the time is like Black Flag comes out and the ship combat is just amazing. And they're like, oh shit, Rogue, we gotta do ship combat in Rogue. And it felt completely fucking crammed in there because this other studio was like last minute being like, oh shit, we have a year to get this game finished. And they love the naval combat, which I'm sure was implemented to some degree, but then they had to go whole hog on it because it was such a feature of like what was an absolute ball buster of a game in Black Flag. So it's a complete shit show of a formula. And the multiple studios and annual releases, or even semi-annual releases, when they went from, what do they do, 15, 17, 18, 20, 23. Anyway.
Yeah, it seems like they've been edging themselves a little bit. I think there's going to be an Assassin's Creed explosion over the next couple of years because they're trying to launch their platform, Assassin's Creed Infinite or whatever. Really putting a lot of eggs in that basket. Certainly nothing bad could come of this.
Oh, I forgot about that. Hopefully that gets fucking shit canned.
How many more like interesting places can we possibly go at this point? Like, they've kind of
so many.
Is there that we
Yes.
know enough about and that has enough like broad appeal?
Anywhere in Asia that's not a spin-off.
I was gonna say,
I mean, we're getting that with Shadows, but like we had like one China game, one Russia game, but those were PSP side scrollers or whatever. So like, I don't know, do anything that's not just like Anglo focused.
or give us a fucking contemporary Assassin's Creed game like you started tugging us off with in Assassin's Creed 3 of doing a bunch of parkour in like different buildings in New York City, which was fucking sick as shit. Give me that. Give me that game.
Isn't that just Watch Dogs or Spider-Man? Wait, is that just Spider-Man?
Watch Dogs wasn't really parkoury. It's more hacky and gadgety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair.
That game's BAD.
Oh, man.
Well, I'm getting Shadows for sure because I have definitely been waiting for the Japan setting, and I've not
Ghost
played.
of Tsushima, man.
I will play both, and I will probably appreciate them both for what they do separately. But I am stoked on that game, and I'm gonna buy that game. I'm
You'll
gonna
play
say
them back to back and hate them for it.
Yeah, for
that
real.
I will definitely not do.
As someone who is playing games now through a slightly different lens, because redacted, it was interesting to go from Ghost back to Assassin's Creed and seeing like, holy crap, Ghost of Tsushima could have been generational if they had done X, Y, and Z that Assassin's Creed was doing years and years and years prior. Like, why didn't they do this? Like some of the exploration, like, dude, the parkour in Origins is amazing. It is so fluid and intuitive now that you don't even have to think about it. And some people think maybe that's like annoying because you're not actively engaging with anything. But I'm like, dude, getting rid of fucking painted chalk lines on every cliff that I see where I can only climb there, or like in Ghost of Tsushima where you get to the top of some cliff and congratulations, you have no way down. You have to go find the little painted steps somewhere on the other side of the mountain to get down. If you jump, you're gonna die. That is so fucking annoying. Just let me go. Let me just climb.
Put a hay bale down there.
Bro, that's
we
what I'm
thought
saying.
of this.
That's what I'm saying. Or like even just, I know Zelda did the glider, and that's a good solution. But like, dude, Assassin's Creed having parkour that lets you literally go anywhere and climb anything and not having it gated behind a shitty stamina wheel. Stamina wheels are dumb and bad. They're bad. Don't do that. That's not what makes this game fun. It's exploring and fighting things. Let me just explore the way I want to explore. So anyway, I love that, and I don't have to think about it. I can just go where I want, and it's still, I'm 20 some hours in, and it still feels amazing to run up the side of a fucking giant monument or up the side of a cliff out in the middle of the desert. And there's so many like design elements, like just perfectly placed, like the way this tree leads to this pillar that leads to this broken monument that leads to the roof. Like, this is such a vast world. It blows my mind. It's an entire fucking continent, dude. It's unreal how much place there is, and everything seems so intentionally designed. I don't know how they did it. Like, it's blowing my mind. This game is like an 8 out of 10. Like, it's a good game, but just from a design standpoint, that's like the only thing that's keeping me just glued to my fucking TV. It's amazing.
You'd say it's solid?
What I think, this Assassin's Creed, I think Assassin's Creed benefits from not being on the water. I think you can't parkour across the ocean. You can sail a boat. Now it's cool in a game, but don't make us do that again. And that's all of Odyssey. That's all of Valhalla. And guess what? Ain't no ocean in the Egypt. You got the River Nile and like
Get the Mediterranean Sea.
Euphrates or whatever. But you go around it. You're talking about riding a horse.
There is a lot of cool ship combat in this game, but it is nothing compared to the others.
You have not mentioned a boat even once until just now to correct me. So
That's fair.
I feel okay on that. Like all the things that you're loving about this game are the fluidity of your movement, the way you traverse from location to location, the way you see where you're going to go. I want to go there. You go there. I want to go there. And these lines, you're seeing lines and you're exploring, you're climbing. That's where Assassin's Creed excels. Is the movement, it's the running around, it's the climbing shit, it's the jumping down, it's the no consequence. Except in, the older Assassin's Creeds where you'd get like desynchronized and you have to do a bunch of bullshit again, follow someone slowly for a while. Bad.
Yeah.
But they took away most of, if not all of that stuff. Sure, you can't kill someone in one hit because it's the Witcher combat, but
You can though. Chris, you did bring this
was
up.
that patched in?
No,
I think that was a big complaint the original time.
It's like
Origins
a really
came out.
early part of the skill tree where like first you have to actually get your assassin's blade and then you have to unlock the corresponding skill. But I did that in the first like 5 hours. And now unless you're like trying to like one shot an elite commander or something, you just one shot assassinate everybody. You can leap, so it was a little bit of a build up because this guy is not a trained assassin, he's just a dude.
Yeah, I wonder if that was patched in because
so
I
was
remember that
Edward.
specifically being a complaint.
I think it
Edward
was.
fucking sucks.
It was, yeah.
Hey, fuck off!
He's just all the ship stuff. Great.
See Troy Baker? It's just quips. It's bad.
I loved Edward to the point like that I bought the tie-in novel to Assassin's Creed Black Flag just so that I could like learn more about him. I loved him. I loved how out of place he was in the world of the assassins, but how competent he was as a fucking pirate. And the merging of those two worlds, well, like you fucking around with Blackbeard and shit. Like, come on, dude. So fun. It's some Indiana Jones level romp.
Assassin stuff, all terrible. Which is why I'm like, that's where they
Always was.
stopped caring about all of the things that actually made those games good, which is a good
I can't
selling
imagine reading a book about Indiana Jones. That sounds bad and dumb.
You're missing out, man.
I love it for you.
You're missing out.
But I do agree. Quippy and entertaining to watch, but not an interesting guy.
Dude, it is so fucking hot in my office. I bet you it's higher than 94 now. It's just going higher and higher the longer I'm sitting in this chair.
Because you're cooking it, dude.
gonna
It's all that
keep
body heat.
My shit brief. This is why I kicked it over to you first, so that you wouldn't be like, I'm dying and I really need to go, and you'd cut yourself short. So I don't want that for you. I wanted to hear about your fucking Egypt binge. I've beaten 2
Hell
games
yeah.
since we did Paper Mario, Metal Gear Solid, and Pikmin 3 Deluxe, both on the Switch. Very strange combo. I'll talk about Pikmin 3. 'cause
Real 1-2 punch.
I just finished
Classic.
that yesterday. Yeah, the old Metal Gear to Pikmin pipeline. Pikmin 3 was super solid. I enjoyed the 2 new Pikmin. It's always the big question of like, how are they going to integrate these new little plant animal critters? But the Rockmen are just so goddamn adorable and endearing, and adds a really interesting wrinkle to combat in that they don't cling to. They're the only Pikmin I think that don't cling to enemies. They just bounce right off of them. So situationally, you can use that. And I settled into a good strat with larger, more difficult enemies of like getting all my red Pikmin or my yellow Pikmin, depending on how tall the enemy was, attached to them, and then just absolutely cannonading them with rock Pikmin to chunk their health down. Just pa 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 pa. And that worked really well. Saved me from a
Good
lot of
sound design. Oh my God. I heard it. When you said it, I heard it.
yes, and like hitting the glass like
Fuck.
and then it breaks through. I love that. And, you know, sort of the discovery of how can I use these new Pikmin to interact with the environment, that the Rockman can smash crystals and knock down glass barriers. The fairy Pikmin, the pink Pikmin, the winged Pikmin, super interesting wrinkle in that they will fly above the water if you cross a body of water beneath it. So if there's stuff across a riverbank or a lake or whatever, you can send them over there to get it. But if there's stuff that's underwater, you need the blue Pikmin for that. So like differentiating that and making you think a little bit about it. And it kept me guessing. There was one puzzle room in, I don't remember which area, but I went in with like a whole army of blues towards the end of the day, and it ended up costing me a whole day because there's a fucking like winged Pikmin gate on the other side of that area that I hadn't taken a look at yet. And I wrongfully assumed because it was a water entrance, I was only going to need blue Pikmin. I went, oh, you sons of bitches. Like, that's great that you can make me have to think differently about water arenas, especially in ways I hadn't before. And they take different paths back to the onion too, because they can float above a lot of like low obstacles. It's just neat. It's a really, really fucking easy game. I played on hard mode and I went into the final day with 1,000 Pikmin and like 67 bottles of juice. Like, I fucking destroyed this game, on hard mode. So like, goddamn, I'm pretty good at Pikmin, but I'm not that good at Pikmin on hard mode. This game is just not challenging. Coming out of Pikmin 2, especially, which is a real dick grinder, with a lot of the descending levels down deeper into the caves, that are really going to test your party comps in a more challenging way. I missed that a little bit, but you know, that's what that was and not what this is. So I'm not sitting there going, why isn't that more like Pikmin 2? Just that it was notable, having done Pikmin 2 pretty recently. And some of the optional stuff where you can play as Olimar in like specific arenas within the levels. They don't give you like full reign on the levels. So like, here's a specific chunk, and it's kind of, they do that really clumsy, we're just going to throw signboards that say, don't go past here, basically in parts of the level to pen you in, where I was like, I don't love that, but okay, sure, fine. They're neat. I liked the little Olimar levels, but again, also very easy. I got platinum medals on all 4 of the ones in the first set and all 10 of the ones in the second set, and I only had to repeat 1 of those to get the platinum the second time. It was fun. It was breezy. It was bite-sized. It's just what I needed coming off of Metal Gear Solid, which is a really fucking talky, thinky game. I have been told for a long time. Actually, before I transition, Nick, you played Pikmin 3. When did you do Pikmin 3? Was that at launch like 3-4 years ago? When did that game come out on Switch?
Pikmin 3 came out on the Wii U in 2013.
Oh, did you play it then?
I played it, well, I got the Wii U when Smash Bros. Came out, because that was 2014. I got Pikmin 3 probably a year or so after that. I think 2015 or 2016 sounds about right for me. And yeah, it was a great time. Very chill. I never finished Pikmin 1. I never finished Pikmin 2. Pikmin 3, very finishable game. Very breezy, very chill. A lot more tie. I was not expecting any tie-ins to the first 2 Pikmin games. And then suddenly, you've got Olimar stuff, and you got Louis stuff, and it's like, it's totally tied in. And Louis fucking sucks. That
Louis
dude is a
is
psychopath.
The biggest piece of shit maybe in any Nintendo game. Bowser at this point, he's a frenemy. We know he's going to kidnap Peach. Peach probably has like a go bag packed already for when she sees the fucking clown carrier pulling up on the horizon. Whatever, who fucking cares, right? Louis is just such a self-serving piece of shit. Like Joey,
he's an irredeemable heel.
I'm playing through this and I'm like, hey, Joey, I've built up like, 34 bottles of juice and I'm on like day 15 or whatever. And Joey's like, that's great. Ellipses. Be a shame if something happened to it. I'm like, oh no. And sure enough, we save his bitch ass and he steals all of our juice, parks the ship in some random fucking area. I was like, you bitch, you Hokutation bitch. How dare you? I rescued you. You were going to die. Oh, so anyway.
He's the worst.
Worst.
Very breezy, but dude, that final boss fight is a bit of a ringer. After what is a very easy game, suddenly you're facing against this nightmare critter And there's a couple cool boss fights. I like the boss fights being very like cinematic and like big things that you're fighting. The plated like millipede thing and like the moth, the fuzzy like furry creature with wings. I can't remember if it was a moth or like a bat or something. But yeah, very cool like moments, set pieces, and the level design is interesting, a little bit more not third person-y, but I don't know. It's a little bit more modern. And there's like almost a 10-year gap between Pikmin 2 and Pikmin 3. So this is like them going into the HD era. The game was always like, check out how real these apples look.
Oh,
Or this Duracell
yeah.
battery. Like it was always about the like, look at how cool this thing is. That's usually small, but it is big on this game, on the GameCube. And they took that to the next level with Pikmin 3 on the Wii U.
It's
The fruit looks
shocking.
amazing. I want to eat every orange and apple I find in that game. It looks so good.
Oh, my mouth is literally watering thinking about like a plum being juiced into those little bottles right now.
Oh,
Like I
The
could
fucking plums on this man.
crush some plum juice right now.
Yeah, Pikmin 3 is great. I look forward to you playing Pikmin 4.
Me too, brother. It was shocking to me how big a jump this was. Like my head was absolutely reeling the first night that I played this game. And that final boss was tight. I was like, oh man, I don't know if I'm going to pull this out of the hat. Like I'd lost a decent amount of Pikmin. The only day in this game I lost more than, I think I had
3.
lost like 30 Pikmin one day. And other than that, it was literally single digits if I lost any. Not a tough game. Final boss, dick grinder. I was like, I might have to run this day back again. And it was cool in that it was like forcing you to use all the different kinds of Pikmin, but also to juggle multiple things happening at the same time, which I don't love the split party thing. I would love to play this game on co-op once, just to be like, okay, you go north, I'll go south. Like, let me get some, like blues and reds out and I'll go knock this out. And you could do that. And, oh, let me trade you some Pikmin and like, we could switch up our things. Like, I bet that would be awesome.
I think that was added for the Switch version.
Really? Oh, we might
There was
have
a
to.
multiplayer mode, but it was not the main campaign. It was like a separate like time trial thing.
Oh, we might have to do that then. Try that out, see how that works. Because I bet it will be super fun. I go through these
Something.
days so fucking quickly and efficiently, just with how many times I played the first game, that I never felt the need to split anybody up because I'm just getting things done so quickly that it will be less efficient for me to split the party and be toggling back and forth and having to like think in two ways instead of just going, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go here. And I should be able to do that all in a day. Great game. Really, really fun game. And that was a great palate cleanser after Metal Gear Solid, which I had never played before. I had been told for a long time that this is a game I was going to really enjoy, both by Brendan Allen, since I've known him, and also by Nate, who knows my media tastes better than anybody. That I'm
Your
going to
proclivities.
I'm going to love. He's like, you're going to love this game. And knowing how big of like a David Lynch stan fucking Hideo Kojima is makes so much sense. This is one of the best game narratives I think I've ever experienced. It is astonishing to me how beautiful the writing in this game is and how capable the voice acting is, given that it is now approaching 30 years old. That was shocking to me how good the voice acting in this game and how good the writing was. This was a James Bond film that's like on par with like the best spy thrillers in that genre. It is, are you hearing that?
It's funny because it's not coming through on Discord, but it's obviously going to be picked up on the local recording. There's dishes are happening in his background, so he's like not talking over it.
It is so hot, I have to leave. It is just getting. I like am taking steps out of my room because I like cannot sit in this spot any longer.
You're sitting in a puddle of your own sweat and urine. We can count down, and Chris can do a monologue, and EJ will edit in an outro afterwards. We could let you go,
Yes.
EJ. Can we count down
Yes.
right now? And then we don't stop, and then yeah, okay, we're all good. Oh, EJ, I'm so sorry. You need AC in your room. You need to get a third AC unit.
It's an extremely competent spy thriller narrative that continually reverses expectations and surprises you and has one more level of depth and one more level of surprise and one more level of reversal and one more level of depth and one more level of surprise, all the way until after the credits are already over. And you're like, damn, this game goes so hard. And again, like at this point, it's still a fairly grounded spy thriller with some like pretty kooky, like anime ass narrative elements, like genetic soldiers and like clones of the antagonists from the first and second Metal Gear games on the NES. And people with the telekinetic powers like Psycho Mantis, which is such a cool fight. I would have loved to have experienced that on the PS1, where he's like reading your memory card and pretending to switch your input. So cool. Just messing with the whole, how can we mess with like literally playing the game as part of playing the game? Like, that's awesome. It's just so cool in 1997 and novel for that time to be like, yeah, he can read your mind. So the only way around that is to plug in a controller in the second port, because he's reading your mind through your direct connection to the game, which is the first controller port. Like, that's awesome. That's so cool. I love that. Yeah, just some absolutely beautiful monologues, absolutely beautiful, like cinematic cutscenes, a lot of cutscenes. Like, oh my God, I thought that Final Fantasy games had a lot of late game cutscenes. Jesus Christ. Kojima said, hold my sake, brother. I am going to show you what it really means to load up a late game with some cinematics.
Absolute
And the gameplay
cinema.
is not bad. Honest to God, the gameplay is not bad. There's only a couple things that really aged out in terms of like, this is a super obtuse design choice. Namely, most predominantly, having to manually equip the stupid key card every time you wanted to go through an automated door that I should not have to have the key card in my freaking hand for it to sense, hey, you've got this key card. That's some 90s ass shit. That was annoying, but not a deal breaker. I just had to remember, oh yeah, I have to do that. But otherwise, I mean, it plays really well. The systems are mechanically sound and interesting. It's a stealth game. You need to avoid detection. If you can take people out silently, more power to you. It will make your life easier. But it carries a significant risk-reward factor that if you don't take them out quickly enough, or if you make too much noise taking them out, you're going to get alerted. You're going to have to find a place to hide, which can occasionally be really difficult when you've got enemies coming in during the alert. But I did not have any issues in the way that I was afraid I was going to visiting this game in 2024. I was like, I get what you're asking me to do. One, mostly just like the second stage of the Metal Gear Rex fight, I was kind of like, this is dumb. I don't think this is really well implemented. You want me to be rocketing him, but he's just going to like insta-gib me if I'm trying to like face him up and fire the rocket, which is going to throw my rocket off target. So you have to kind of get between the legs and cheese it. And the fact that it's switching from a third to a first person perspective when you whip the rocket launcher out, your target lock can break if it's not on at the exact moment of firing. So it just looks some really finicky stuff that I was like, this is, again, you're showing your age a little bit. But that last fist fight on top of the ruins of Metal Gear with Liquid Snake is just so badass. And like, there's Meryl, there's like the love interest, capable soldier, no damsel. She goes into the line of fire, but there she is. There's the bomb, just fisticuffs with this motherfucker until you kick him off of Metal Gear. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't see a body. Where's the body? And then sure enough, here's the fucking car chase scene. Here comes Liquid Snake. Gotta have a turret fight getting out there. And leaving some interesting threads hanging into the next game of like, who's Ocelot working for? Holy shit, there's a third clone of Big Boss, who's the literal president of the United States. What the actual fuck? And also, Solid Snake was the faulty clone and Liquid was the superior clone, but they told them each they were the other just as like this really fucked up psychological nature nurture experiment, which like, fascinating. Like, it's so weird and interesting in a way that I ate up. I ate it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and I'm so stoked to like keep playing the series. And that Delta's coming out like probably in the next 7 to 8 months. Even if it's 25, it's going to be early 25. So I'm going to chain 1 and 2 right into a beautiful like current gen remake of 3. Like,
hopefully it's
one
not
more thing
bad.
for me to eat good at. It seems like it's a pretty straight ahead remake, and Snake Eater is really, really well reputed for the stuff that it does. So if I could put up with PS1 ass Metal Gear Solid, I'd love to think that a remake of 3 is going to be, that much more better than even revisiting 3.
We can hope, but Konami is Konami. So
Yeah.
tempering. That's all I'm saying.
Maybe I'll-
Temper.
I'll wait for that review embargo.
Yeah.
Is what I'll do.
Yeah, no rush.
I don't pre-order anything anymore. You know that.
Yeah, why
I
would
mean,
you
except for
pre-order
Metroid
a
games,
Metal
but-
Gear Solid 3 remake? I mean, come on.
No, that would just be asinine. So I'm totally here for this game. This is going to be another series I'm playing through, adding that alongside Resident Evil, of just like chipping away a little bit at a time, of moving through these games, and getting to experience these franchises that I just miss. And again, Nintendo Switch, miracle machine. I can play all these games, and I'm sure when they do the second Master Collection, I will be able to play it on the Switch too. Because there's no reason why 4 and both parts of 5 won't run well on, like a PS4 analogous set of hardware in the Switch 2. I mean, assuming that's what it is based on the leaks.
Would absolutely hope so.
So I'll cross my fingers for that. Or I'll buy it in my not tiny red box and it won't get to be all cute and bite-sized next to all my other cute little red boxes. They've got to keep doing the red box thing for Switch 2, right? Like, they've got to keep doing the cute little box thing.
They don't gotta. They could do a full brand overhaul. Red is very Nintendo now. They changed back from the Wii and Wii U gray era with the branding. They jumped back on the red bandwagon, brought it back to their roots. So they could do like red on white. It could be white, but PS5 is white, so maybe they want to avoid that. I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities ahead of them. They're not going to do blue because PlayStation is very blue. But they could go back to like gray. They could do like red on gray. We don't know. Never try to
Yeah,
put
that's
Nintendo
true.
into
We
a
don't know.
box. They put themselves into their own box, and then we buy the box.
And we escape detection by pulling the box over our head.
The exclamation
Brought it all the
point
way back around.
fades away.
Dude, some of those like really iconic bits, I got the cardboard box for the first time. It was like, yes, this is the box. Like I knew it as a part of meme culture. I knew
Leo meme.
like the codec ringtone. Yeah, the codec ringtone and the exclamation point, but I never experienced them in context. It's really jarring when that exclamation point sound pops up. You're like, ha, no, and then, da, 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 da.
Snake.
No.
Steak.
Yeah. It's like, oh man, this game's so tight. This game's so cool.
Should I play Metal Gear?
You give it a shot. Give it the old, 90-minute try. And I really genuinely think that will be enough time for you to decide if it's something you want to play. The first area is pretty merciless just in terms of like, you are going to play this game the way we want you to play this game, or you are not going to get out of the tutorial area. And I almost bounced off of it harder than a penny from the top of the Empire State Building striking the concrete of the street below.
Sounds about right. I feel like I've seen the intro to Metal Gear Solid and that it is very much like playing through a credit sequence of a movie that thinks it's way more important than it is. So it's just like,
Yeah.
here we go.
That's pretty
Here we
fair.
go, here we
And again,
go.
it's also like you have to hide, and they're also teaching you, this is great. They're teaching you a lot about the environmental design of the game, that you can't just move on any surface and expect you're not going to be detected. There's a puddle in that first area that I did not figure out for the first like 2 to 3 deaths. And I had many deaths in this first area, was the reason why I kept getting detected. Then I went, oh, okay, I better crawl. I went, oh, I can fit under some of these surfaces. Oh, this is giving me access to areas to hide that are more effective than just like trying to kite around a corner because of the guard patterns and everything. It's great. In a lot of ways, it is a masterclass in ways of teaching you how a game works without giving you pop-up bubbles that tell you how like all the different things control, which is occasionally annoying because then it's like, okay, what's the clue I'm missing? How can I teach myself here? Like, I don't quite understand the missing link, but I would always rather that than they just like grab me by the dick and say, come over here, Yeah, you might like it. Kojima wants to make movies so desperately though. Like you just said it. Like that is an action movie ass opening credit sequence, a spy movie ass opening credit sequence. He wants to be a filmmaker. And that totally works for me in the video game space with my own, like, proclivities, as you put it. But I kind of just want to see this movie that he's making, because that would be tight to not have to worry about like player control. What kind of narratives can you spin when you don't have to worry about gameplay.
based on my very minor knowledge of Mr. Kojima and his oeuvre, his body of work, that if he wanted to make a movie, he would have done so a long time ago, and that he likes making games, but the thing he likes more is watching movies. The man loves movies, so he's going to inject everything he makes with that love. And that's the vibe I get. Like, this man, half of his tweets are him just like bowing down to George Miller, who he calls his god, like literally. Like, he loves Mad Max. He loves Mad Max. I've never seen him tweet a single time about David Lynch, but he loves George Miller. Genius, God, George Miller. So he loves movies. He loves action movies. Obviously, Solid Snake is just a huge, like, check it out. I watched Escape from New York and I really liked it.
Oh,
So here's Snake
yeah.
Plissken in my funny action espionage stealth espionage action or whatever. Like, he makes up genre names, even though it's just like, yeah,
tactical espionage action.
yeah, yeah. He's fully up his own ass, but like not in a weird, annoying way. Mostly, just more like a
He likes it up there.
Yeah, he loves it
and he
up
works
there.
well up there.
He works well up there. People really like it up there. People want to be up there with him, up Kojima's ass. So for that, I respect. I love
I've
it.
enjoyed my sojourn there.
There's a lot of creators out there that are fully up their own ass, and nobody wants them there. They want them out. They want them out, not doing anything anymore. Even like, I think of David Cage, and like, be gone, please. More Kojima, less Cage. I'd be very happy with that in this world.
So I'll probably start part 2 sometime in the summer if I need little breakies.
What is next on your plate?
I started Fire Emblem Three Houses last night, and I'm cautiously intrigued. I am definitely playing on whatever the easiest difficulty is, and I am playing on the mode that does not perma-kill units at the end of a fight. I recognize that is not the Fire Emblem way. I don't give a shit. I will never play this game if it's the other way, because I will get so anxiety locked and rerunning missions trying not to lose a single unit that I won't finish it. So in the interest of trying to get to know this series, I'm going to do that.
Correct. I mean, I vibe with that. I understand that. In this game, I don't know if those the games that implemented it, but this game is very forthcoming with items that allow you to take back turns. So if you fuck up a turn and suddenly you're down a character, you can just like rewind. And I would assume they give those out even more frequently on a lower difficulty, but I would look into that. Maybe that's going to be an ale to your, or a balm to your ales, as it were. But yeah, I played this. I think I played this in they call it like hardcore and casual as far as the permadeath, because like one is the OG. Like, yeah.
Oh, it's casual and traditional, I think. But I'm playing no permadeath.
Right.
So casual
But
all the way.
you don't want them to die anyway because they need that XP, dog. So you're going to be running it back anyway. So I don't know.
I might.
A bit of column A,
might.
a bit of column B. But yeah, anything that keeps you from like having, weird brain blocks, like remove that veil, remove that barrier for yourself to enjoy. Get lost in the tactics.
I'm doing this for the boys back home, the EJ boy especially, because this is him's favorite franchise.
And it's the easiest Fire Emblem I think I've ever played. So I wouldn't worry about that.
Well, that's great. And I'm trying not to, I don't want to really say anything about it other than I'm starting it, and I'm going to need breaks in between, I'm sure, which is where like Blue Fire is going to get here in a couple days. I really don't want to expect that at all. Other than you're like, hey, buy this game. And I was like, great, 95 cents off, gimme. And Pikmin 4, I guess. So, cause that hit a sale at my preferred price finally. Thanks for that. Thanks for that heads up, Nick, as ever, coming in clutch. So I'll dabble those in, but mostly I think it's just going to be a summer of Fire Emblem. It's going to be a hot fire summer.
It is a very good summer game because it is long, it is cozy. You get into a routine, you get into like a flow state with it. It's like picking up a book that you like and reading a chapter, being like, wow, that was great. Closing the book, putting it down, picking it back up the next day. You're not voraciously devouring it. It's a little bit more cozy, a little bit more drawn out than that. For me, it was at least. So hopefully you get yourself into that kind of flow and that you can like meter it out, because obviously you're very busy up in Alaska. So this seems like a good long-term game. And I think you could really easily juggle in an action platformer like Blue Fire, or even like Pikmin 4. Pikmin 4 is very good though. So I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. If that grabs me, I may get pulled in. If Fire Emblem grabs me, it may just become a black hole. But like 30 to 45 minutes a day is definitely where I'm at with my games at the moment up here. So that should be good.
And no matter what you think of the gameplay or the story, we can always just appreciate that, man, it's a banger soundtrack, and we can always agree on that.
It is, yeah. More sample size needed for all the other stuff. I'm trying to withhold some judgment.
Give us some time. You'll have so many thoughts, and we'll have a lot of time to talk about them.
I'm sincerely hoping that the map gets better than it is within the academy, because it is absolutely putrid in the way that it works when you are inside of this building. So that's all I said one thing. I said I was going to say the same thing. I said one thing. Get us out of here before I say more things.
You're a damn liar. Well, this has been the Console Crusade podcast. Maybe EJ will add some more, but solo.to/Console Crusade. Email us, feedback at Console Crusade. Give us your hot takes on Fire Emblem and Assassin's Creed and Metal Gear Solid. Not very popular franchises, I know, but maybe some people have thoughts. We'll have to bother Brandon in the Discord. I'm sure he's got 16 paragraphs on all of those, one way or the other.